The average male body fat percentage in the US is nearly 30%, which is ironic because every guy wants to be lean, look, and feel their best. They want to have a six-pack, be more confident, more attractive, and they want to be the best version of themselves. And a question that we all ask ourselves when we start working out is, how long will it take me to get visible abs? And of course, the reality is that it's going to be different for everyone, but also a lot longer than you think. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how long it should take you to go from 25% body fat to 10% and make sure that you're on the right track and doing the right things. And this has nothing to do with your genetics or some quick fix where you have to starve yourself, do hours of cardio just to get abs extremely quickly. It's about committing to the right set of habits to ensure that not only you're going to get abs in a sustainable, fast way, but also that you have a strong and balanced physique with it. Anyone can become super skinny and lean and have barely any muscle, which honestly just makes you look weak and fragile. It's about having a top 1% physique, one that most people will never achieve because they don't know what habits they need to commit to on a daily basis. So many guys underestimate how long it actually takes and how difficult it is to go from 25 to 10% body fat. It's not a 2, 3, or even 4-month diet. For most people, it's more like 5 to 6 months of consistent dieting and making gradual changes every single week. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be 100% perfect all the time, but you need to be consistent and look at the bigger picture and make sure that you're always moving in the right direction every single week. Some weeks you may lose 2 pounds, sometimes you maybe only lose half a pound, but over time it adds up. You have to make sure that you structure your day to make sure that you're always working towards that goal of getting the 10%. One day of binging can set you back a week or even more. It's also crucial that you make sure that you're enjoying the process and have your environment set up in a way that goes in alignment with your goals so that you feel good about what you're doing every single day and slowly work towards that end goal. It should never be something that feels like a chore or something that you have to rely on sheer willpower for. What most guys don't realize is that you really don't need a ton of discipline or willpower if your routine and environment are set up in a way that makes it effortless to be consistent. When making the wrong choice is difficult and the right choice becomes automatic within your day-to-day. Within the first month and a half, you'll see a good amount of progress and the scale is going to drop pretty quickly. And it's super exciting at the start for a lot of people. But after you lose that first 5, 10, or even 15 pounds, you'll start to notice that your energy's higher, your mood's better, and you feel much more productive throughout the day. You'll start to gain a lot more conviction within yourself because you've been keeping the promises that you've been making to yourself. When you say that you're gonna do something, you actually do it, which is where most people fail. They always say that they're not gonna miss any workouts, but the moment it's been a long day at work, they fail. They say that they're gonna meal prep on a Sunday, but when the football game's on, it becomes an afterthought. When you keep the promises that you make to yourself, you're doing something you've always wanted to do and reaffirming how bad you actually want this every single day. Not doing this is what keeps most people fat and complacent. They aren't willing to take a risk on themselves. And I can't even believe I'm calling it a risk, but so many people don't want to make themselves look stupid. Like, you don't even want to know the amount of times I've embarrassed myself at the gym. How many times I feel like I've made myself look stupid. But the thing is that I didn't stop because I knew it was a part of the journey. And when I achieved what I set out to, all the people who are laughing at me are all of a sudden going to be asking for advice. Being afraid of failure or thinking that you aren't able to achieve it is what holds so many people back, because everyone wants to be in good shape, like I mentioned earlier. But the average male body fat percentage in the US is nearly 30%. So there's a huge disconnect within the data versus what people actually want and do. But once you're able to overcome that fear of failure with anything and commit to the habits and actions that you need to, that's when your confidence truly ascends. Your self-belief becomes what you never thought it could be just by doing what you said you would. So even after the first month or two on your way to 10% body fat, you're already experiencing some of the life-changing benefits. The weight you lost, the first 5, 10, maybe even 15 pounds, you'll definitely look a little better, but the biggest difference that you'll notice is in how you feel and your perception on yourself. If you have 30 to 40 pounds of excess body fat, then that's really only a small drop in the bucket. And once you lose that first chunk of weight, it's gonna start to become more difficult, and this is where most people quit. The visual changes at the start really aren't significant, and your hunger is starting to creep up, and you'll realize how much more work still needs to be done. But this is where it really matters and how you go about tackling the next 30 to 40 pounds, viewing it as a marathon, not a sprint. The first 10 to 15 pounds that you lost came off pretty easily, but the rest will become harder and harder. And this is one of the reasons why getting to and maintaining a low body fat percentage gives you such high status in the real world, because anyone can lose the first little bit of weight, but what really separates you is being able to push forward when it gets more difficult, when what you've been doing in the past stops working and you need to refine things. The results seem slower and everyone is so impatient now and thinks that they're going to be able to lose the weight in just a few weeks. Like, think about it this way. If it took you 5, 6, maybe even 7 years to gain all that weight, what makes you think that you're going to be able to lose it in just 5 to 6 weeks? Being at a higher body fat percentage for a long time becomes your body's homeostasis or set point. And the further and further you go away from your body's original set point, the more difficult it will be to continue to lose weight, which is why it's so important to make sure that you have a sustainable system in place to not only ensure that you get to the end goal, but also so that you're able to maintain it for a long period of time and establish that new set point for your body. It's going to require you to change your lifestyle and habits, how you perceive pain and pleasure, and your views on food. The version of you that's 10% body fat with abs and looks and feels the best will not only have a completely different physique, but also a completely different mindset. And after that initial hump of good results, if you're one of the ones who's able to push forward, it'll become part of your lifestyle and you'll start to feel and see the benefits, and you'll never want to go back to being fat once you experience that. If you have a sustainable system in place and you're enjoying the process, Literally no one ever goes back to being fat once they start seeing results. But since it's a long journey to go from 25 to 10% body fat, you need to take it day by day and focus on winning each day. What I mean is that you need to be satisfied every single time that you go to bed, knowing that you didn't cheat on your diet, you crushed your workout, you're giving yourself the opportunity to sleep 8 hours, and that you checked every single box needed to in order to make progress. If you only focus on the end result, it's gonna feel like you're not making any progress because it's gonna feel so far away. Think about it like putting pennies into the piggy bank, and over time, one day you're gonna open that piggy bank up and you're gonna be lean, aesthetic, and have abs. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you're all of a sudden gonna wake up one day and say to yourself, oh my God, I did it. Like there really isn't gonna be a drastic change in how you look and feel from one day to the next. It's gonna be about making those small changes every single week because it's gonna be slow and gradual to develop your physique and mindset over time. Something that you guys need to fully grasp is that getting shredded with abs does not come from crash dieting or starving yourself. In fact, that's probably where most people go wrong. They want to see results instantly and completely neglect the fact that it takes months for your body to change. What happens is that when people start to feel the diet where they become hungry, tired, and don't want to be in it any longer, they think that they can speed things up, and I'm sure it'll work initially. But if you're only eating like 1,200 calories per day, you'll certainly lose weight quickly, but what happens when you plateau and you still have more fat to lose? You start eating only 1,000 calories per day and significantly increase the chances of you losing muscle, significantly increase the chances of you destroying your metabolism, binging, and then gaining all of the weight back and then some. Like people think that they're speeding up the process by doing this, but what ultimately happens is that you're slowing it down because eventually your metabolism is going to adjust and you have to stop losing fat altogether because you can't just live off such a low calories for that long. Not that you'll actually die or anything, but it's not sustainable. So you have to go into a reverse diet, then go again, which can delay things by another 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how bad you crash your metabolism. It's not worth it because you'll feel like garbage, your workouts will suffer, you'll not want to do anything other than eat, and you'll question whether or not it's even worth it. It's like your mind starts to play tricks on you as if getting shredded is even worth it because your quality of life becomes so bad at this point. And this might sound counterintuitive, but you want to be eating as much food as possible while still being able to lose fat because you want your metabolism to be running as fast as possible. You want to keep your metabolic rate in a healthy spot because this is when you'll be making the most amount of progress, but also feel great the entire time. And if you're able to feel good throughout the process, then you'll feel even better when you hit 10% body fat and slowly reverse diet out properly. I've had clients who ended their diets around 2,200 calories, but now we're eating over 3,000 with the same body composition because we executed the reverse diet properly. Every person that you can think of who has a physique that you want is probably eating more food than you think because they know how to diet in a sustainable way, then properly reverse out and speed up their metabolism. They have the right habits integrated into their lives like walking, cardio, working out, being physically active so their body has more of a demand for food. Also, muscle is a metabolically demanding tissue, whereas fat isn't. The more muscle that you have, the faster that your metabolism is. Anyone with a good physique who knows what they're doing isn't starving themselves or suffering. So what makes you think that you need to do the same? If you cut all the way down to 10% in half the amount of time it should have taken by crash dieting, the moment the cut ends, you're gonna feel like binging like you never have before, and you're gonna blow up like a water balloon and look like a Michelin man in just a few days. And this is because your body's extremely sensitive to food and wants to hold on to everything since it doesn't know when it's gonna get a lot of food again. So it's gonna take weeks or even months for your metabolism to reset and you can try again. And this is a mistake I made so many times myself back before I knew better. And I think really anyone who's been in fitness for a long time has made a similar mistake. So that's why I'm telling you guys hear this now so you don't make the same mistakes as me. Because let me tell you, it's extremely demoralizing seeing yourself shredded with abs one day and a bloated gut the next. Physically, you obviously feel awful, but mentally it's even worse because you lost 12 weeks of progress in what feels like a few days. Not that you'll gain all the fat back in a few days, but the water retention you hold will make you look like it. Really, you want to aim to lose around 0.5% to 1% of your body weight every single week on average. And at the start, it can be a little bit more, and towards the end, it'll probably be a little bit less as the fat becomes harder to lose. If you start losing weight much faster, then you want to start eating a little bit more or do a little bit less cardio. It might be exciting at first, but you want to play the long game for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. And if you're not losing weight quickly enough, just eat a little bit less or do a little bit more cardio. And one thing that you need to keep in mind is that you don't want to make any super dramatic changes either. Like when you need to drop calories, only do it by 200 to 300 and give it a week to a week and a half and see how your body responds. Sometimes it'll take a little bit of time for your body to adapt to the change, so you need to be patient. There really is no rush with this. If you're trying to lose fat quickly because you have a vacation in a few weeks, you've already failed because you should have started earlier. Not saying that you shouldn't try to lose some weight, but don't expect to get to 10% in a few weeks if you're over 20%. When you do it at the proper speed, you'll maintain gym performance, actually build muscle during the process, and feel great. Cutting calories too quickly and too low completely eliminates the possibility of you being able to build muscle while cutting. You're also gonna look and feel way better overall too. You won't look super stringy, whereas if you would if you crash dieted and lost your gym performance. And one of the biggest things that you should prioritize when you're losing fat is maintaining or even increasing your gym performance so you know that you're gaining at least some muscle. And when you're able to push more weight at a lower body fat percentage, at a lower body weight, then that's a sign of progression in the gym. And being able to sustain training performance while cutting is what's going to lead you to having that physique that feels full and vascular. It's what separates you from the skinny guys from the jacked ones, and it's the amount of food that they're able to eat and how well they're able to maintain their training performance. The real transformation you get from going from 25 to 10% isn't the six pack, it's the person that you become along the way, the habits that you build, the discipline that you've created, and the confidence that you gain. Those variables are just as, if not more beneficial than getting the physique itself. Getting a good physique is the bare minimum because it's the foundation for every man to reach their full potential. And if you haven't put in the work in the gym to be able to achieve a good physique, you've probably spent most of your life looking for shortcuts or thinking that there's a way to achieve something great without having to put in the work or sacrifice. Getting a good physique gives you the reality that nothing in life comes easy, and in order to get extraordinary results, you need to be doing boring, ordinary things for an extraordinary period of time. Working out, eating clean, doing cardio, getting your steps in is what it truly takes, and there's no way around it. You do the work consistently and get results, or you don't, plain and simple. The identity shift that you have during the process is the most important part of it all because it's going to translate to all other aspects of life. You apply the same mindset to whatever else you want to achieve in life, and the results will come. The same goes with business and relationships. You do the basics and stay consistent. The gym, getting a good physique, is the first step, and it becomes a stepping stone, so you don't view it as an end-all be-all. When you go from 25 to 10% body fat, you'll become a completely different person, and that new version of you will be able to achieve literally whatever they set their mind to, because now you truly know what hard work feels like and what it takes to achieve something that 99% of people never will. And if you want help going through this transformation both physically and mentally, there's a link in the description to get in contact with me, and we can get on a call and determine what the best approach would be for you specifically based on your goals, situation, and lifestyle. So you don't have to waste a bunch of time doing all this trial and error that delays the end result for most guys, so you don't have to question whether or not you're doing the wrong thing. But with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.